Good day to all. I would say that it seems far too often that my meetings with you are virtual in nature rather than in person. I, however, understand that in order to address and respond to the onslaught of challenges facing my country, and indeed all nations across the world, requires that we, together, find the means to do what must be done. Colleagues, I'm cognizant this special event is meant to focus on coordinating policy responses to the global food crisis, and thus on the surface it would appear sensible for us to take a laser-focused approach to this specific topic. However, let me counter this notion. I want to challenge you to broaden your scope, to mobilize the required leadership and to apply the find the means to do what must be done mindset to the challenges currently confronting us. We truly are at a juncture in time where that must become our modus operandi. My friends, the truth is that this global food crisis is multifaceted. Earlier I used the term onslaught to describe the challenges we face, and this food crisis is one of the direct ones that has been spawned as a result of this onslaught. I can tell you that as a leader of a small island developing state and as a representative of Latin America and the Caribbean region, the climate crisis and the legacy of global finance and inequalities may have helped shape this global food crisis. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine has given this crisis legs to run rampant, and run rampant it has, charging through each of our nations and regions with a frightening fervor and a lack of respect for geographical size, GDP, or economic status. Lack of access to and increases in the price of essential inputs such as fuel and fertilizers has exposed the fragilities of the global food system, highlighted our overdependence on fossil fuel inputs, and ultimately left the most vulnerable in our societies exposed to the harshest of realities without the ability to respond. My friends, the time to act together is now. And when it comes to the global food crisis, there is no tomorrow, for without food there is no life. And if this becomes our shared reality, then we have well and truly failed. Similarly, I say to you that the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, accelerated climate crisis, and a reshaping of the global financing system sits before us as the means to resolve this global food crisis. Not only do I truly believe we can achieve these things, but I also believe that we have a blueprint for meaningful change, for through the lessons learned from the 2007-2008 food crisis, and most recently through the pandemic. Timely, meaningful, and principled policy coordination at the local, national, and global levels can provide us with the means to do that which must be done. These policy responses need to be systemic, context-specific, involve public-private sector partnerships, and be inclusive of all, farmers, consumers, civil society, all the while being mindful of those who are most being affected. Make no mistake about it, we know it will not be easy, but my friends, it is necessary. I can speak at liberty on this because it's my reality. As recently as this week, my government announced a slew of much-needed relief measures for the people of Barbados. This required frank and open discussions and an imaginative but realistic approach from members of our social partnership, the government, the private sector, and our labor movement. These arrangements came about largely due to the fact that we were all cognizant of the severity of the food crisis and the impact that it is having on access to food, and also the compounding cost of living crisis that's facing generally our society for electricity and gas. As I said then, I'll say now, it's not perfect, but again, we've used the means available to us to do what we know must be done. And in my case, we've also asked people to focus on the growing of 6-week and 12-week crops, and on doing those things to be able to carry along those who may not be able to carry themselves. Because if we have a poverty rate of 20% in what our countries, in some instances, then it means that 80% are above the poverty rate. And it therefore means that we need to use one another to be able to help carry one another. And I hope that this will be part and parcel of what will be done in order to help our people get through these difficult moments. I ask you today in this session in Mobilizing Leadership to remember these things And I pray that you find the synergies and the means to develop and advance a shared understanding of the main issues, identify the areas potentially for convergence and collaboration, and discover the options for policy responses that are most relevant to your nation, to your community. We want to ensure that we have to find this resolution because, as I said earlier, without food, without water, there is no life. And we need to also confront the reality of the degradation of our soils, which is compounding the situation by reducing the yields that we can get. We have lived life as if it didn't matter what happened in the future before. But we now know today that everything that we do does affect our ability to face tomorrow, to face next week, to face next month, to face next year. I pray that we work together to ensure that our people are at the center on the most basic of needs, food and water. Thank you very much.